So you need the heat, you need the sun, you need the wind, you need everything.
Everything, yes. That's why we say nature is our partner. And we are very responsible for nature, because if weather is not good, if there is no sun, there is no our salt.
Welcome to the Flavor of Croatia podcast, hosted by yours truly, Zeno, Hromin. In each episode, I explore today's Croatia, speaking with artisans, winemakers, culinary experts, genealogists, artists, and people who are defining and redefining Croatia today. So pull up a chair and join in. Today is my pleasure to introduce Sanja Stamenić Oštrić, Managing Director or Marketing Director or Strategic Director or all kinds of director at Solana Nin, it seems like. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate to be your guest.
So Solana Nin has a very rich history. From everything that I've read, it goes down to the Roman times. Can you kind of fill us in on from then to now?
Well, Solana is really very old salt work. Some evidence showed us that it's more than 1,500 years old salt work. And really it came from dating back to Roman times. We have evidence on salt pools. So this is a floodgate, big stone floodgate that was used in Roman times. And it was interesting that Roman emperors and Roman people enjoyed the salts and salt flavors. And what is very important, these ancient times, salt was exchanged for gold. And it is well known that Roman soldiers were paid with our salt, not just our salt, but worldwide salt.
Yeah, salt in general was considered a
Yes,
currency. Yeah, it was
yes, it
as
was.
valuable as gold at one time.
Yes, the payment was salarium. It is believed that the term salary originates from that time. But it's very interesting that in 1500 year, Venetians bought all salt pans on Adriatic Sea, including our salt work, also Nin Saltworks. And since it was a rival to their salt pans, Venetian salt pans, they shut it down for 500 years. But they could not shut down the life on salt work. And Nin Saltworks is still alive in biodynamic ecosystem. Even today, it still lives and produces at the same way it produced in their time.
Tell me, I think people are under the impression that salt is harvested. The stuff that they buy in the store is really not what you guys make. You guys make everything by hand. It's all hand harvested, correct?
Yes, all our salt is hand harvested and made by human hand. We have 55 hectare and 150 salt pools and 495 floodgates. Every April, I would say, we open these floodgates to open water to circulate from gate to gate. After a few months, I would say on the beginning of July, we are starting to getting first crystals of salt, which we harvest with our people harvest it. And this process of harvesting, the knowledge of harvesting salt is carrying tradition from generation to generation. And we do it very simple. Our salt is made not just by human hand and not harvested just by human hand, but it's also very important. Its weather conditions are very important. It must be minimal 21 days, sunny days, to make a grain of salt.
Wow.
If there is any raining time at the salt work, we have a problem because became waterable, and you cannot harvest and collect salt
When it rains.
when it rains. Yes, we have one season. A few years ago, we have a whole season was raining season, and we really did not harvest it a lot of salt. Even I would say we harvested a very small amount just for our museum, not for any other necessity of factories and supermarkets and shops, souvenir shops where we sell our salt.
So you need the heat, you need the sun, you need the wind, you need everything.
Everything, yes. That's why we say nature is our partner. And we are very responsible for nature, because if weather is not good, if there is no sun, there is no our salt. So we can say we do not produce salt in factory, we produce it in nature. And that's why we, when tourists come to us, we always focus and tell them about the story of salt, because I would say that every of our product has a story. It's much more deeper story than it was produced in factory, if you understand what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's that actually every grain of salt goes through somebody's hands where you
Yes.
guys are. I see them with shovels. You can see the videos on YouTube where
Yeah.
the industrial salt is there's some kind of a machinery that just scoops it and
They
it's
took
not touched by human hand.
seawater. Yes, they took seawater and then they evaporate salt from it. But in these open factories, as we have, you are depending about nature, but really you have something incorporated in your product, and it's a generation old knowledge and processes. It's tradition. It's simplicity of nature and
It's also a healthier product. I mean, there's nothing added to it. Like you said, the other things are shoot with chemicals or the salt is stripped from the minerals. You guys are one of the three, I believe, companies in Europe that has the bio certificates for your
yes.
operation, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's why we wanted to have a bio certificate for and bio sign. It's very rare in the salt industry, but we really appreciate this kind of production, and would like to continue like producing like this, and that it stays also for the next generation. I like to say it's our responsibility. Better to say that we should not ruin it. We should be nature responsible and continue to transfer knowledge to next generation and the processes, and of course produce salt.
For those that don't know what the biocertification mean, maybe they need a little explanation. It means that is organically harvested salt. So in conjunction with nature, let's just put it that way, because
Yes.
they do it together and they have a certain amount of. Sometimes the mother nature doesn't really play nice, and a few years ago you guys had a bad flood. I know my house got flooded, so I don't have to tell you how it was really bad, right? It was
Yes,
2 years ago. You guys, I think 2017. It was a lot of rain that came very fast. What was the damage to Solana Nin?
We had a big damage. It was a disaster for us, because we designed a new museum, and we also do some new production sites, and we have a lot of problems with salt pools. They were ruined, and a lot of salt pools. Even our storage with products were in terrible shape, and we lost more than, I would say, annual revenue
Wow.
that year. Yes.
Yeah, that's
And
terrible.
we are a small company. We're a family-run business, and there are 20 people in our company, and it was very, very disastrous for us, really.
Yeah, I can see that. Before we go to actually, I wanted to. You just mentioned the museum and the tours, and I do want to touch up on that. But do tell us what is the flour of salt, which is considered the premium product for any salt maker, and yours is considered one of the best in the world.
Well, I call flour of salt the flour of health, because it's salt in original form. Well, usual table salt accumulates at the bottom of the salt pan and the salt pool, and the flour of salt remains on the surface like a fine crystal, united with the sea. It's very, very gently picked by hand and with wooden micron sieves, which looks like flower petals. That's why they call it flower of salt. Well, it was very known. First, they talk about it in France, and it is very known between, I would say, master chefs and great chefs around the world. In Croatia, we were the first company which started with producing flour salt, and I would say it's a product of the metabolism of algae and specific microorganisms. It has more than 75 essential minerals inside. It is really high quality sea salt, and master chefs usually called it queen of salt.
Yeah, I've heard names, caviar of salts,
Caviar
and
salt,
all
yeah.
kinds of. And what one thing we should mention, which is very important, is that people should not use that salt in cooking, put it into the stew, or making paprikash. That's not where it goes. It's a finishing salt. So you finish your dish. I do personally with your salt. I love it. It doesn't matter if it's a steak or a fish. It just
Mhm.
goes at the end of the dish, and it just brings out the flavor of
Yes.
food to another level. Where your regular salt you use for cooking, the flour of salt is strictly for finishing the dishes. I want to touch up on two things here. First of all, salt has a bad rap, especially in the United States.
Hmm.
The salt is blamed for everything from Trump being a president to I don't know what else. You know,
Yeah.
the salt, the way I see it, okay, and to me, and I'm a big cook, okay. To me, the
Hmm.
bad part about the salt is the salt in a prepackaged foods, not the
Hmm.
salt that we consume that you make, not a natural salt, but the fake salt, quote unquote, what I call it, is what's used to preserve foods, which is mostly chemicals, not really, it's a sodium. So I feel that the salt has gotten a bad rap where we are shying away from using a salt, which we really shouldn't. We should just use a good salt, like your salt, like salt that actually comes from the nature, instead of using the stuff that's out of the box, that's been in a box for 300 days.
Doctors recommend it to these people who don't need to use more salty products, and people who have some problems with salty food, with processed food. Even we are recommended with our salt is recommended to babies, to small children, because it's a really natural product that I would say it's the best of the sun, the Adriatic Sea, and the wind. It's really ecological. It's harvested by human hand and completely natural. And I think that that's why it's very suitable for everyday use. And you cannot have any problems with this type of salt. It's not artificial.
I just wish people realize that a human body needs salt in order to function properly. We have a friend, a very close friend. This
Mm-hmm.
happened a few weeks ago, who was taking salt out of her diet too much, to
Mm-hmm.
the point where she ended up in a hospital because her
Mm-hmm.
body was lacking salt. So sometimes I think people get afraid of salt. It's in a wrong way. Salt is something that we all need every single day. We just need to not have the processed salt. We need to have the good salt, as I call it, the good salt. Tell me about your tours. You guys, I know the last year was a disaster for everyone with the
Mm-hmm.
COVID and everything. But you guys average somewhere around 70,000 to 100,000 people for your tours a year.
We have medical mud, over 200 bird species, and ancient tools that testifies about history of our salt. So we can say that we tells a story about salt through history, through wars, celebration, love, joy, and finally, of course, work. Well, during all this time, many things have changed, and a lot of different things happened on our Salzburg, but one thing remained unchanged, and this is the salt, because the salt is just as it was earlier, gathered with hands, with love and joy. And we really want to continue it for next generation. And we have a tours in, we have a museum at Salt House. We called it Salt House as a part of Solin, and you can see there also black and white photos from the past, old tools which was used for work. wagons that served as a means of transport for the salt from the salt pans to the salt depository. But at the same time, we did some games where you can play. Through this museum, you can feel the history, and through the tours on our salt work with our educated salt guide, you can feel nature and see how does it go with harvesting salt, and what does it mean to be produced and harvested on salt pools. Every year we have open days for visitors. It mostly would be in June, July, and August. Every second week we organize it. And on this way, we want to show and demonstrate our tourists and visitors, of course, the history of natural production, and
They can actually see how is it harvested too.
yes, and we talk them our story of salt, and we have a guided tours, and we do it free of charge. One day in a week, in 2 weeks, we do it free of charge. And we have we every year we have a salt festival. It's important to point out that people mostly like salt festival because they can participate in packaging our products, and this is very, very interesting to them because people don't want just to watch, they want to participate, they want to feel it, and they want to be the part of your story. And every year we have a salt festival just to connect with our tourists and with our people, so that we are not just factory, that people know that we really do this business from the heart, and that really people who work in salt work, they feel the salt, they live the salt, and they really love it and made it with love.
Your husband's family has a long history with the Solana, right?
Yes, they are. My husband grandfather, he worked in salt work, not just this salt work in Croatia, but the other one, the salt work pug, and his father also worked in salt work pug, and they always had a wish to have their own salt works. And these days, my husband is a general manager owner of this salt work Nin, and they continue with working with salt in family, and they really love and appreciate salt. And I would say the salt is to him and to all of his family more than a business. And not just him, I want to point out that all workers who work in Solana Nin, they are mostly cousins or
They're part of the family.
part of the family, because their family worked in Solana Nin for generations, and they continue to do it. And for most of them, the Solana is not just a company. I would say it's like a mother to them. So we who lead this company need to be responsible for it, because you need to take care about these people, because they are really emotionally bonded for this company, and want to make some good story of it.
So people know you as a salt maker, but you guys have a lot of products. And actually, over the past few years, I have seen you expand greatly on a number of products that you guys make, from flavored salts to, all kinds of different. So tell us about them.
Yes, that's why I always say we don't sell salt, we sell story of salt. And what we did this past 9 years, we thought about different products of salt, and we made more than 200 products of salt. So today we have cosmetics with salt, different kind and type of cosmetics. We have olive oil with salt, flour of salt. We have chocolate with salt, we have cakes with salt, we have lollipops, we have children picture book about salt and animals from salt.
I'm going to say personally, since we carry your salts in our web shop, your Dalmatian mixed salt is awesome. But my favorite are your wooden gift boxes. I love those gift boxes. I just wish I had more of them. They're such a beautiful thing to give to someone. I mean, they're really well designed products.
Oh, thank you very much. We really do a great job. We have a great designer, and we are all involved in designing our products. And I would like to mention that we also our products are made also packaged by hands, and all trying to do special product.
So, what is the future for Solana Nin? What do you have in works? What is anything new that you guys are working on? What would you like to see this become?
We are really working on our brand, and we would like to export more. Export our story of salt and our products like flour salt and table salt, and spread the story of salt throughout the world. We really live what we are talking about, and from generations to generation, people work for Solana Nin and exchange their knowledge, and even I would say some marriages happened on Solana Nin, in Solana Nin, and we have one marriage where they met in Solana Nin 40 years ago, and they had 5 children, and 4 of them worked for, and some of them still works in Solana Nin.
That's wonderful. It's like a big family affair. And also, I mean, I've grown up in Croatia, so I know these businesses tend to be a big part of the community, a big part of the generations that go through these businesses. And in yours, it seems like you guys are more in a community itself, because you take care of not only the people that work for you, but also the ecological effect on the area that you're working with and the products that you make. And I am so glad that you make it, and I'm so glad that you joined us for a few minutes to talk about it.
I'm glad also to be part of your story, and I'm glad that you are our loyal customer. And I hope in the future we do more business and tell the story of salt all around the USA.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are grateful that you took time from your busy day to listen to the Flavor of Croatia. If you enjoyed the show, we would love if you would share with your friends and leave a rating and review to whatever app you listen to us. Your feedback and rating helps others discover our podcast. Flavor of Croatia podcast is brought to you by Adriatic Gourmet, importers of premium Croatian foods. You can find them on adriaticgourmet.com, or you can click on the link in the show notes. Thank you again for listening. Until next time, Bog I Hrvati.